Hey everyone, this is Ron, and that's Daniel.
Howdy.
Hi, and this is the first episode that we've recorded. That's coming up right after this, but we are actually saying this after the second episode because it didn't occur to us that we should just give a brief synopsis of what we're going to be talking about.
So we watched a movie and an episode of a TV show. The movie is called I Married a Strange Person. It is directed and animated by a man named Bill Plympton, who some of you may be familiar with. And it is about a married couple where the man has...
He's got like a cyst or on the back of his neck.
Yeah, the military really wants it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he gets, like, superpowers from the cysts. Yeah, and he can, like, do, like...
He can transform anything, kind of like that kid in the Twilight Zone that Billy Mumy played.
Right, and for some reason he only wants to transform everything into some variation on a Bill Plympton cartoon. For the man who has everything, it's... I've never been in a position of that much power, so... maybe that's just a natural psychological reaction.
You've been able to control the nature of reality, but you've never been in a position of power.
Not professionally.
No, okay, all right. Just sort of an amateur side project kind of thing. So.
Anyway, so the military's after him. He's got this big cyst, and his wife is...
She's afraid of him. She runs away.
She like runs off to her parents because she's kind of like, you got this giant cyst and suddenly the government's after you all the time. And then there's like a lot of stuff with like the military
entertainment complex, because the general reports to the owner of our conglomerate that runs an entertainment media empire.
Right, and they really want this cyst, and hijinks ensue, and I don't know if there's a whole lot.
There's not much of a story. It was really just like a bare bones story for excuse for Bill Plympton to do Bill Plympton.
Yeah, sometimes like an animated film, it can be like a ballet. Like you have to read the plot description beforehand, and then you're just kind of there to see the things in motion. And I guess the Green Goo episode.
So we saw Super Friends: The Lost Episodes.
Right, Super Friends: The Lost Episodes, and it's the. I think we covered this one actually because it was a lot shorter, so we... Oh yeah, we
basically covered the whole thing. But some people shoot some stuff into space and ends up in Earth orbit. And then the hijinks begin. So there we are. Now we can begin the first episode.
All right. See you in, now.
5, 4, 3, 2... 1. Oh, you know what? We haven't actually talked about...
Howdy, people. Welcome to another edition of a show that has never happened before. This is the Pilecast, also known as the Pop Pile, also known as the Ron Cast, except when it's known as the Dan Cast.
Might even be the Liz Cast at some point.
Yeah, it might be the... You don't even know who Liz is, but... Soon she's going to be, like, on whatever you replaced your radio with. In my case, a, like, very old phone that still has buttons. Like, it's the weirdest thing. Like, the thing still has, like, buttons. Wow. Just, like, touching a TV. I don't know.
I think even the iPhone, the big button at the bottom isn't really a button. Like
they still got the big button?
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay. I thought the iPhone, they went to that thing where, like, the big button was like somehow integrated into it, like the screen wrapped around the sides for no good reason.
Oh, wow, okay. Maybe this is
I don't know. I haven't had
one to 9 or X or 23 or I'm not sure what the number is. Hold on. 1138. Okay.
So, I guess we should give some kind of breakdown of what exactly we plan to do at this point in the podcast. The podcast is kind of an evolving organism, I think. I think it's going to take a couple forms, but today it took the form of, I guess,
Well, we watched movies.
We watched a movie. We watched a cartoon at the end, kind of switching it up a little bit. You know, the short afterwards is kind of an aperitif as opposed to an appetizer.
It's a post-retif?
A post-retif, yeah. Wait, I thought an aperitif it was like for that or some way where you like digest with it or so.
Wait, is that so what's a digestif?
Well, digestif, that's what I was thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah.
So aperitif is what you drink at the beginning and digestif is at the end? Or
that makes way more sense than what I was saying. I was kind of wondering why like the root would be like the same as appetizer if it comes afterwards.
Well, I'm wondering if I have it wrong because I'm confusing it with appetizer. So
no, digestif sounds right. Anyway, so we washed down some Bill Plympton. I Married a Strange Person. I don't know what year that it came out because one of the central tenets of this show is we do not research anything. We just sort of accumulate things to give you the absolute best. So what year did this come out? Universal Studios apparently released this in 2000, so almost 20 years old.
And how many years do you think between the time that he made it and the time that it got released?
That's a good question. I mean, he released a couple movies in the 90s, so I'm going to guess it wasn't too long just because he does most of the animation himself, so it takes forever. And also that's why, like, you see a lot of cheating on the backgrounds. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but, like, it was just like a stock photo of clouds and grass in the background for a lot of the exteriors. Yeah. But anyway, I Married a Strange Person. It's about, what is it? Can we say in good faith that it is about?
A person is struck by something that gives them superpowers and that they can't control. And everybody wants those powers, and then the movie ends.
Right, and there's like a lot of sex and violence and whatnot in the middle. For those who have seen other Bill Plympton movies, nothing that different from the other stuff. I thought this one was a lot more violent than the other Bill Plympton movies I've watched, because there's like a guy skating on somebody's like disemboweled corpse at one point, and I don't even think that was the most violent thing in the movie.
Oh no, I mean there's
like the one guy gets his like ears pulled out and his like nose pulled out until they all just look like flaccid dicks. Like 90% of the stuff in the movie is just sort of like, you know, everyday objects or situations somehow turning into hard or flaccid penises visually.
Yeah. Well, so does the comic, the failing comic who ends up pulling his own limbs and just every body part off and throwing it around, and his head, does that count as violent? Or it's self-inflicted? Is it still violent?
I think it was pretty, yeah, because, I mean, you see, I mean, I'm not thinking about it so much as, like, violence is a thing one person does to another person in the picture. I guess I'm thinking of it more as just sort of like a general texture that the film comes back to a lot, and, like, any chance he got, he was just going back to, like, viscera and, like, intestines coming out, and like they're flying around every which way, and you know, there's sort of the dark humor of like when the comic, he's been completely disembodied by this guy's like weird superpower, and he's in a stretcher like in more pieces than like the bottom of a bag of French fries or something. It's like, thank you, if you ever need help, you just saved my career. And like the guy looks like he's gonna, and I mean obviously the guy's superpower, not the comic guy, the other guy, his superpower pulls the guy right back together and he looks fine, because that's And that's actually kind of weird because, like, in cartoons, that's usually the only thing they don't explain.
The pulling back together?
Yeah, right? Because, like, Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote, you see them, they're flat and they're this, they're that. And then all that happens is a commercial break. That's the rejuvenating power that brings them back. And in this case, it's more supernatural, I guess.
Well, you don't even wait for the commercial break. It's just the cut to the next scene and suddenly,
oh, yeah.
Wile E. Coyote is ordering something from Acme when he was just flattened one dissolve ago.
Right, yeah. And that was sort of interesting because nothing else in this film, there's, I think, the least attention given to explaining things or trying to present a linear account of reality that I've seen in a movie. Like, well, that might be. I mean, I've seen some pretty incoherent movies, but it's definitely up there.
Wait, say that again? I'm sorry.
So, like, the characters...
Everyone out there, I'm asking Dan to repeat even what you just heard.
The characters don't have conscious motivations. All motivations are unconscious, and then those motivations are kind of undercut by the need for this, like, wheel of repeated visual motifs, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, you just get the sense that, like, Bill Plympton is not a happy dude. He's like, yeah, I mean, I kind of wonder, like, has he been married? How does this film relate to his marriage, if it ever happened? I guess it's just like the way everybody kind of behaves in the film doesn't give me the sense that he's had, like, I'm going to get us into trouble here. I like... that he's had any kind of a positive relationship in his life? Yeah, like, you get the sense that he never got past the third date or something. Like, nobody was... well, like, everybody, they're either having sex or they're just like, oh, I felt the wrong way about having that sex before. I'm going to go have that sex instead of this sex. Or, like, it...
Well, one of the people is learning how to have sex from a television show or by watching the video. So that's Bill Plympton. I think that's he's never actually had well, and it's not even with another person. It's with a blow up doll, right?
He's never had as he probably thinks we call it. Meat relations. He's been deprived of meat relation.
Has he ever talked about, like, have you ever seen an interview with him?
No, I've never.
Talking?
Like, a guy I knew in college knew his, like, office assistant. Or claimed to know his office assistant, so this is like third-hand rumor, but apparently he was kind of cranky. That's
really?
All I heard. I was like, oh man, you got any stories? I was like, no, he's kind of cranky sometimes.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like a happy guy. Oh, he could be really happy and cranky, but
maybe, yeah.
He's probably cranky
it takes
with a chip on his shoulder. Yeah.
Like, when I was trying to do cartooning more hardcore, it takes a certain disposition to be able to just be in your house by yourself, hunched over something for as long as it takes to draw, I mean, a comic book, much less a feature-length animated film. Because you figure, like, if he drew all that himself, that's going to be maybe like 15,000 drawings or something. It's and
there's no at all, like, okay, he draws the starting image, the final image, maybe a couple in between, and then there's a whole team somewhere else in a different country that's doing all the in between frames.
No,
it's all him.
It's all him.
Wow.
Yeah, that's like his calling card, is that, and that's why it looks so. That's why there's so much play with textures, because he's not going off of like character design style guide sheets. Basically, like like when you see TV animation and they send it over to, you know, Korea, what have you, they usually get like this mock-up of the character, and you don't ever see any kind of shadow detail or stuff on the characters because A, it's just like expensive to animate it more, B, you just can't coordinate that many tiny lines between, you know, 500, 600 people.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking. You have a few intermediate spaces, but so you have one team
like
working from here to here.
Hardcore storyboard, pretty much.
Yeah. So you've got the start. So you've got like let's say four the starting point, the end point. Let's say 3 in the middle, and then Team 1 in Seoul is working between the starting point and the first break, and then Team 2, let's say in Mesa, Arizona. Mm. Is that where Mesa is? It's in Arizona, right?
Yeah.
Not that there's anything related to cartooning in Mesa. It was just the first name that came to mind. So that team is working from that point, that first to second interstitial and so on.
Great.
I'm making up a technique that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, he probably has like...
Bill, you could have had it so much easier.
I'm sure he has CUNY interns or something, but as far as I know, he just like, he draws his stuff by hand and then goes wild. He's a little bit like Bakshi like that. Like, Bakshi takes forever to make his movies because he's just drawing so much of it by hand to get like very specific effects, and I think that like lack. Okay, this is what the two movies had to do with each other, or the movie and the cartoon, because we were trying to figure out like why do these two things go together, and the only actual answer is that I pulled them both off the shelf within the same day. But
and we were looking for something to. It was a digestif for Bill Plympton, or it was a palate cleanser.
It was,
or just something. Another thing, more cartoons. Right.
No.
So you're saying that there's a connection?
Well, there's a connection, yeah, because like we were talking in the Super Friends cartoon, we were kind of making fun of how everybody in 80s and 70s TV animation, they've always got their hands perfectly at their side unless they're talking at that exact moment, and they're always staring straight ahead at the person who is talking because you just can't afford it. And that's like the difference between like a standard commercial method animation where it's different now because Flash makes it cheaper, but it's a little different. You still see it pretty rigid character designs. Like, people don't move unless they're about to punch each other, or unless you have a close-up of their face where you can barely tell it's a face, to the point where they almost don't have to animate the mouth moving. And some of the like the Star Trek cartoon, it's all fucking close-ups because they have no money and they don't want to draw anything. And in Plympton, everything is constantly in motion. Nobody's really making a stock pose unless it's as a way to signal something very abstract, like, lust or violent or the military. Or speaking of which, his politics in this movie, he has how would you even...
Well, there's a whole military-industrial complex thing, right? There's the Smile, right, which would tied to entertainment as well. It's a military-industrial entertainment complex. Because the corporation is called, I think, Smile Corps. A Smile Corps, which is affiliated, which is the entertainment, and also affiliated with the military.
Smile Corps, I think it is the government, it seems like, because they're, troops are coming straight out of the building. There's no mention of there being an actual
government that's separate from...
Government. Like, the guy that's giving all the orders just kind of looks like a shriveled version of, Bob Iger. What's his face? The Disney CEO.
Okay, I'm not sure what he looks like. I'm restraining myself from pulling out my phone and searching for each thing. Bill Plympton, ever married? Bob Iger. Images.
Is it Bob Iger? If Bob Iger's somebody else that I just randomly pulled your name out of a hat, my apologies.
Yeah. Don't sue. Please don't sue. Will Eisner, right? Will Eisner.
Yeah, of course it was Will Eisner. Will Eisner, owner of Disney, creator of Mickey Mouse.
No, wait.
I'm kidding. No, hopefully we all know who Will Eisner is.
Sorry, it took me a moment. It's like, wait, do I have the names wrong? Wait, I'm imagining the signature. It looked kind of... Oh, wait a second.
No, I mean, he kind of does the E on the Eisner, like...
Right, it's a Disney-esque kind of
thing. The D or the Y. They like big letters. They like big, fancy-looking letters.
It's the E, the D in Disney and the E in Eisner look like they're part of the same font.
Yeah, definitely.
I just reduced, tens of thousands of Disney cartoon animators into a font. Comic Sans. A cat just came through and then disappeared.
Oh yeah,
we lost the cat.
Yeah, that's the resident podcast cat.
Yeah,
the podcat.
The podcat. Oh yeah, what's the podcat's name? No, that is the podcat. Is the podcat?
Well, when the podcast is going on, the cat only refers to podcat.
Okay.
The cat only responds to calls of podcat. And you can tell because the cat's like coming over to hang out as soon as I said podcat.
Yeah. Look at that. Look at that. He's sitting. He's waiting. He or she?
Oh, it's a she.
She. Okay. Yeah. She. The podcat.
The podcat.
So who? What is the name of the cat that is playing the role of the podcat? Let's call her Mitzi.
It's a D.
Starts with a D.
With a D.
Diana. Diana.
No.
Dina. Dinah. Should I stop coming up with D names? Davida.
Diana Ross. That's the cat's full name.
Diana Ross. Today on the podcast, Diana Ross,
on the
cat.
pile cat.
On the podcast. The podcat.
The podcast, the Pilecast. Together they join forces and become the Pilecat.
Oh yes, we're talking. Oh, Will Eisner, Bob Iger, whoever owns Disney right now,
right? Whoever
or runs Disney, I guess. Oh, what was the point about all that? You were saying something, and then I.
Oh wait, yeah.
Laughed about
the guy that is like commanding the military. The guy that's like shriveled and gaunt, and I married a strange person. At least to my memory, and I have not looked at a picture of the CEO of Disney in a very long time because why? Why would I, I'm going to die someday. Why would I spend my time doing that? But from what I remember, it looks very similar, it's like a shrunk down, gaunt, more evil looking caricature. And that kind of went back to your military entertainment industrial complex comment when we were trying to figure out.
Oh, right. There's no external government that he's giving the guy orders.
Right. There's no government. There's just kind of like this building with a giant smiley face in the middle of it. And then apparently civilization still runs perfectly fine unless you have this polyp in your back that lets you change reality. Because everybody else is just kind of going along. And it's there's no social services. There's no infrastructure to the government except for the part that gives us TV and the part that gives us the military. It was also kind of confusing because it was they weren't dressed like domestic. Or, well, I guess they're domestic military police because that makes it more or military something. I'm overthinking this.
They were wearing green. Which, all military outfits are green.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of green, that's another connection between our first course and our second course. The blob of...
Mauricia? It was on the thing.
Return... The Melusian blob.
That's
what it is.
From the planet Melusia.
From the planet Melusia.
It's actually waste. Waste from the planet Melusia. Spoiler.
And the blob looks, it looks like a planet just cleared its sinuses for the first time in a very, very long time.
There was a bit of a political statement in that too, wasn't there? Because this was disposal of nuclear waste. So whatever their thing was, it wasn't nuclear, but it was disposing waste for some sort of energy source.
I mean that's pretty forward. Reaching for, space waste. We're not even worried about space waste yet. We got all these domestic waste problems, but once we solve all of those to our satisfaction, we're going to have to deal with the... I mean, how much stuff has been just, like, randomly shot into space, probably? Like, how much people junk is just...
Oh, wow.
Floating around space, you figure.
You know, I used to know. well, not the exact amount, but just but stuff around it, because it was a big deal, and space.
No, when Ron got that community service plea bargain, he wished he'd paid more for a better lawyer.
It's like, don't send me in the space shuttle again, please.
No, I just said I would pick up trash. I thought it would be more terrestrial.
Well, the thing, the show ends, like, what was it, 83, something like that? The Super Friends? And this didn't actually get shown, but it was made for it, so still, this is the Reagan 80s.
Yeah.
And it's earlier in the Reagan 80s. So this is, and this is something that's showing on national commercial broadcast television.
True.
And they've got this sort of, not quite an anti-nuke message, but an anti-nuclear waste message, and bringing up that just how problematic.
Just like toxic waste generally.
Yeah, you're right.
As like an abstraction. And I don't know, I guess I wasn't alive then, so I don't remember the TV climate as much. Although I guess I watched a lot of Super Friends, a lot of Spider-Man is Amazing Friends, like the 80s junk cartoons, basically, because they were on constantly.
Like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're including that.
Oh,
Super Friends in that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I was watching this stuff, like... Well, it was like a weird thing, because, you're a little kid. If you're of that disposition, you can just sort of, like, binge that stuff 24/7. And then I came back to it a couple years later, and I couldn't make heads or tails out of what was going on. I, like, had these vivid memories of, like, oh, yeah, there was, like, all this plot, and I felt like I'd been through something at the end of the 10 minutes. Then I go back, and it's like, this episode was actually shockingly coherent by Super Friends standards. Like, maybe that's, like, why they declined to show it, because it was too off-brand. But
it was a whole story from beginning to end. None of this in media res stuff. This was like, no, we're going to start point A, end in B. I'm sorry. You were
No,
in media res stuff.
Long weekend. But although I feel like I saw a lot of things where they would have that vague message of like, oh, this thing exists. We're sort of dealing with it like, I guess it's like comic books that way, like superhero comics in the 70s, 80s. You got a lot of things that are like very obviously things you can decode now as being these political symbols that the person's mulling over in their head. But you get this very good picture of kind of like a layman's anxieties and perspective on that thing at the time. Like a great example of the 90s Batman comics where everybody gets out of Arkham Asylum and it's just sort of, I mean, A, they're incredibly racist. Everybody, and B, there's that feeling that everybody had in the early 90s of like, oh man, just like stigma about the mentally ill, feelings that the world was going to get overrun by crime if you didn't have like a strong guy in his pajamas.
Right.
Like we have now, except I don't know if he's a strong, big guy.
Stout.
I would love to see a Batman story where it turns out he doesn't actually have that much money. That would be like DC Comics, if you're listening, like I want that much money, so pay me, but like if you want this to happen, I can make it happen.
Was this like you mean going along from origin story to the present, or that he used to have a lot of money, he got all these great gadgets as a result, lost his money, stock market crash, I don't know, real estate bust, and now he's got.
Well, he's just mismanaged it horribly, right? Like he inherits all this money because, like, he didn't start the Wayne Foundation or the Wayne Industries or whatever. He was just like a kid who got lucky. Yeah. Well, I guess he got lucky and then he got very unlucky. But
one incident.
The only thing we ever see him spend money on is stuff that does not have any ROI. There's no return on investment. if you just keep like destroying custom sports cars that you need to get made in secret so that nobody knows you're Batman. Like, we almost never see him, like, unless he's just the officer in the corporation who's tasked with like Ra's al Ghul is a big enough part of their quarterly statement that they can afford to spend most of their money hiring one guy to go take care of him. Like, he's probably broke by now. Like, he's living in a cave. You know, no, that's taking it too far. But.
No, so he's got all these. So he's got all these like aging gadgets. Yeah, it's starting to fall apart. Even the batarang, he has to keep replacing that super thin cable. It's like he's just keeps attaching rope or like shoelaces. You break that shoelace and you have to kind of retie it and make another thing. So he's doing that with the batarang. The Batmobile is a rental from Hertz.
All right.
On a weekly basis, so because it's cheaper that way than if you just do a day by day.
So we're gonna take a quick break and we'll be right back with the
news.
Whatever this is, yeah. All right, we're back. Took a little break. You didn't, but that's because we're the boss, I guess.
Or you can take a break anytime you want.
Yeah, or you can
skip.
I don't actually know if you can hit subscribe. I haven't figured out where we're going to put this yet, but if you can hit subscribe, you should hit subscribe so that we have an excuse to keep watching movies. But also like podcasting, it's about like hanging out with your friends but feeling like you got stuff done.
Right. I already feel a sense of accomplishment.
Right.
Like, it's not just my usual, I'm going to watch a movie tonight yet again, but it's like I'm going to do some, engage in an activity that has a purpose, almost akin to doing work.
Yeah, it's
more
like
fun than work.
Like Marshall McLuhan used to say, the TV replaced the fireplace, right? Everybody kind of gathers around it, it flickers light, and you're not quite... It's like entertaining, but you're not necessarily paying close attention to it. And yeah, it brings out that kind of like campfire aspect of watching TV.
Can I, speaking of Marshall McLuhan, can I quote something that you said that I think is my favorite quote for the week?
Okay.
I read too much Marshall McLuhan as a kid.
I read way too much Marshall McLuhan as a kid. Yeah, no, I mean, I think I with the initial quote, but yeah, no, I read like way too much because I think like, what was it? My dad was like, "Hey, here's Woody Allen movies. You probably liked it." I mean, great. This was a long time ago, and I went through a lot of Woody Allen movies. I guess that was my first movie binge. We had the drive-in movie store, which does not exist anymore, and my parents had rented out our house. I was like staying in the middle of nowhere with nothing to do, and they're like, "All right, if you don't cause any trouble, just like go over to the video store, rent whatever." And I think I went through 30 Woody Allen movies in a month.
And there aren't even that many.
No, there's like 45 or so. There's so many.
Yeah,
there's still
year,
like
right?
ones I haven't. I think I've seen all of them up through like 1995 or so, except for like the lost one that's only at the Museum of TV and Radio, the Men in Crisis, the Harvey Wallinger story, which is like it's like Zelig basically, except it's a big riff making fun of Henry Kissinger. That it aired on PBS once and then it just sort of got buried. It's the only short he ever directed. I think it's like 30 minutes long.
So you haven't seen, let's see, Blue Jasmine? Blue Jasmine?
No, I never saw. I did not see Blue Jasmine. The last one I saw new was Scoop. Or no, it was Scoop, because Scoop was like the comedy riff on Match Point. They're like almost the same movie, but one of them's a comedy and one of them is like Woody Allen trying to do Hitchcock.
I'm trying to remember Scoop. Huh. Okay.
It wasn't very memorable.
Oh,
okay. It's
right.
like...
I mean, I probably saw it.
Woody Allen hires Scarlett Johansson because he's like, this is the last time I'm going to get away with, like, flirting with a much younger woman in a movie. And, yeah, no, I mean, you can kind of tell from how he handles the camera. Anyway, where was I? Anyway, so I saw Annie Hall. And I was getting bored of reading the stuff I was reading because I was mostly reading like the prose I was reading. I think I was pretty much just reading like prose tie-ins to superhero comic books because that's like what I knew to look for at that age. So I saw Marshall McLuhan show up in the movie theater in Annie Hall. You know, the people were talking in the line, and he's like, "You know nothing of my work, blah, blah." And I was like, that's like the definition of badass. Like, I think that's how America responded when they saw, like, James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause. And I was like, I want to be that asshole that stops people and says you're arguing wrong in a movie theater. And so I was like, who is this guy? And, I just started going over to the Skidmore library. They just let me in, and they had a complete set of published Marshall McLuhan books. And yeah, it took me a while to get through Understanding Media, but once you get through Understanding Media, the rest of it makes pretty good sense because it's all pretty much just riffs on the stuff that he sets up in that book. And that definitely changes how you're like watching TV and stuff afterward. It's like
my equivalent of Marshall McLuhan in Annie Hall is in Rodney Dangerfield in Back to School. He has a paper due in Kurt Vonnegut, so he hires Kurt Vonnegut to write it. And then later on, his instructor was, I think, Sally Kellerman, tells him, and by the way, you know nothing about Kurt Vonnegut, or just something because of how bad it was. Yeah.
Well, that actually happened to, what was it, Paul Thomas Anderson, when he was in film school to see if the professor knew anything. He blatantly plagiarized his first screenplay that he turned in from, I think he just literally turned in the screenplay to Glenn Ross to see if the person even noticed it, and they didn't, and he dropped out of film school right after that because he was just like, good lord, you know, these are the people I'm taking advice from. And then he did okay. I had that kind of attitude in school, and now I'm doing a podcast for 3 people and a cat. But
and the cat's not even paying attention.
Right.
The cat left.
Yeah, but we're still calling it the Podcat.
Yeah.
That's the official name of
the Podcat shall return.
Someday when we're all very rich from this, we're going to call it the Podcat Empire.
Yeah. The Podcash Cow.
But, man, I think I saw it, I must have read that like 14 at the oldest when I started like just hardcore trying to read Marshall McLuhan. So, like, very, very young, yeah, like...
So, I bought my first Marshall McLuhan book in my 20s. And that's also the last Marshall McLuhan book that I bought. And I still look forward to one day reading it.
Which one was it? Do you remember?
What's his first one?
The first one is the Gutenberg Galaxy, but it seems that didn't get printed very extensively. So usually the first one people run into is either The Medium is the Massage or Understanding Media.
It was Understanding Media. Because then afterwards, you know what I got too? Because I did also own The Medium is the Massage.
Yeah, and those are like the
everybody
two
got the
most...
quote wrong. It's like, no, people got the quote right. That was, you know.
Right, he was just obsessed with puns and James Joy. Like, Medium is the Massage, like half the actual text in that book is like little bits and pieces out of Finnegan's Wake.
Really?
Because, like, have you ever tried reading Finnegan's Wake?
God, no. I mean,
like a page or two.
It's very tough. Yeah, no.
You get the idea. Like, it's not supposed to make a ton of sense.
Right. I was conflating try with succeed. You know, there is no try. Yeah.
But yeah, he photocopied every single page of that book, put it into a binder, carried it around, and the back sides of each page were blank. And, like, it's got to be in his papers or whatever. Probably University of Toronto, I'm imagining, would have this in a box somewhere. But, yeah, he just, like, annotated every single sentence of Finnegan's Wake. So, his stuff becomes, like, increasingly harder and harder to understand because he's playing around with like puns and the sound of language and how they can suggest meaning more than like trying to make set points and stick to them. I think partially because he realized it was such a big subject, like he's the first guy tackling most of this stuff, he's probably going to get like at least half of it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So he sort of subverts that by just sort of being like, I don't really care about being right, because we're not in that point of the intellectual discovery process. I always like that.
So he was putting together the annotated Finnegan's Wake,
Mm-hmm.
except that he didn't trust himself, or wanted to do the research.
Himself. I don't think he trusted language to convey meaning directly, or he would get bored with like standard kind of academic. Like, this is what I mean by this. This is what I mean by this. This is what I mean by this. Blah blah blah.
This is what is.
Right. Well, that's Bill Clinton, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that was Clinton.
Yeah, but yeah, like you read an academic paper, it's like, this is what this word means in this specific paper. This is what this other word means in this specific paper.
Oh, talking about the words in Finnegan's Wake, not his own words, or was he trying to explain his own words?
Well, he takes this huge influence from Finnegan's Wake, and I think from a lot of the like unconscious stuff in pop culture that he was digesting, because his like 10 years before understanding media, he did a book called The Mechanical Bride, that's basically just parts of comic books and advertisements with one-page riffs on them.
Mm-hmm.
On the side, it's not structured like a standard first academic book where it's like, here's my thesis, here's my supporting statements for my thesis,
mm-hmm.
here's, it's just sort of like, I think this is big, I think this is important, I don't know how to organize these thoughts yet, which is kind of fascinating to me, because you don't run into many writers that are comfortable with not knowing things when they're writing in like a theoretical context. Like, even the ones where like they're writing about the impossibility of knowing, they're like very arrogant about it a lot of the time. They're like, I know how we don't know, like, and he's just sort of, I'm gonna, it's like this podcast. It's like, let's just follow the language where it goes and then eat when we get hungry,
Which we did.
We did, yeah.
We ate first. Right, yeah, the whole sequence of events went, watch the Bill Plympton movie. Bill Plympton. I know, it's like, I'm saying it too I'm modeling it too much. So, like, watch the Bill Plympton movie, then watch the Super Friends episode, then walk a 15-minute there and back to get food, then eat the food,
and then like get the microphone working, which took
a
while.
So about 5-6 days after having completed the Super Friends movie, we finally sat down. It's like, no.
Hey, we're still doing better than Warner Brothers did, because they didn't show that for 10 years or something after they produced it, according to the DVD case. So
yeah, that was. I'm impressed, because let's hear it. The exact title is Super Friends: The Lost Episodes, and like, wow, look, 24 episodes. Oh, there's 2 discs. Okay, 24.
Well,
episodes
24, but it's like those half episodes.
Yeah, so each one is like 10-12 minutes long.
Yeah, if that.
But yeah, Lost sounded so impressive. Like, wow, for half a century, these the 16 millimeter prints that were in some warehouse somewhere, and suddenly they were uncovered during some demolition, and it's like,
well, this is the Super Friends: The Lost Episodes is the only instance where the American public has successfully conserved their natural resources. Anyway.
No, well, it was just a finish. It turned out that Lost Episodes meant that the episodes were made or they were completed after the show was no longer on the air.
Right.
And so they didn't get shown for another 10 years for another DC.
Right, the like reboot of Batman the Animated Series, where going back to the animation thing, like less money. You notice like the early episodes of the 90s Batman cartoon, there's like way more detail, and then like the very end, like the last 30 episodes or so, everything's like that super jagged, angular kind of like anime type style.
No, it was a stylistic decision. What do you mean?
Oh, I'm sure it probably was that too, but But you kind of notice they go back to the old animation style when Justice League got picked up because they had the money. Because like Batman the Animated Series in the 90s, that was the most expensive cartoon on television. That was more expensive to produce than The Simpsons. It was $500,000 per episode to send it over to Korea to get animated. So I figured it's 65 episodes in the first season. So they dropped at least like $35-40 million on that.
So I have a confession about the Batman TV series, not Batman TV series, the Batman animated series. The TV series refers to the
Adam West. It's the only true Batman.
Right. There's the movie, the 1966
some days
movie.
You can't get rid of a bomb.
Right. Or the walking up the wall by
the shark repellent.
Yeah. The shark.
Robin, I need the shark repellent. The bat shark repellent. Now, it's not just shark repellent. It's like Batman. Yet again, like another Batman Donald Trump parallel is that he loves putting his name in front of shit. Like, can you imagine? Hand me the Batman stakes. Robin, you're never going to graduate from Batman University with those kinds of marks, like.
What's branding? He understands branding. Oh, he's I suddenly can't. Bruce Wayne. I just had all sorts of names going through, like so Burt Ward.
Because it's not like
Wally Wayne.
If he marks all this stuff, it's not like somebody's going to find it on the street later and it's like, oh, okay, well. Somebody wrote Batman on this. I better mail it back to Batman wherever his address is. Like, if you know where to mail the thing back, he's got bigger problems than that. Like, that's why, like, anytime anybody goes to the Batcave, they're always like, blindfolded or whatever.
No, but it's branding and royalties and all that. So if you just sell shark repellent, that's generic. That's the shark repellent you buy at CVS, or the CVS brand. But bat shark repellent, no one else can sell a bat shark repellent.
That's true.
That's a high-end item.
Right.
And he's Bruce Wayne, multi-mega billionaire Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, I guess I'd be putting my name in front of everything, too, if I had access to the kind of celebrity endorsements that Batman could pull.
Yeah.
Like he knows Scooby-Doo. First name basis. I saw it on TV when I was a kid.
Scooby-Doo's sidekick and Batman's sidekick are the same person.
Yeah, that's true.
Scooby-Doo's the sidekick.
It's like really... No, I mean, Shaggy's totally the sidekick. Shaggy doesn't do... Shaggy is just sort of like... It's like some old guy who worked for Hanna-Barbera, like not quite understanding that his kids had found marijuana. Like that's, I think, the basis for most of the Scooby-Doo franchise. It's like, oh, my kid's acting so funny now. I sense animation gold here. Let's solve that mystery. But yeah, Casey Kasem.
Kasam.
Oh, is that actually how?
No, I think that was he's I think of Lebanese descent.
Oh yeah.
So it's an Americanization of an Arab surname, Arabic surname.
Casey Kasem with American Top 40. Casey Kasem characters. Number 1 is Casey Kasem on American Top 40. Can't beat the original. Number 2 is Robin. I get to hang out with Batman and I get paid for it, motherfuckers.
Hey, I thought this was G-rated.
Oh,
no, we're going to have to cut that out in post.
Well, nobody told me what the G stood for. Yeah. I thought the G stood for gratuitous.
Oh, okay, all right. So there isn't enough swearing. I'm sorry. I'll try to swear more. Does this mean? So how do you get one of those little E's explicit on? You know how on songs. So I know. Oh well, not on your phone, but say on most phones. Like so if you're looking at Spotify or iTunes or something, like if it has explicit lyrics.
Oh yeah,
it'll have a little E next to it.
I think the RIAA deals with that, or like they self-report it, but I don't know. I mean, they have like stuff where it can analyze pictures to the point where it can pick somebody out of a crowd. Like, there's probably voice recognition for songs to the point where it can recognize roughly, like, oh, somebody just dropped the F-bomb.
Yeah. But how explicit does something have to be in order for it to be considered explicit? Lowercase explicit. How much swearing and how much graphic detail of some kind of bodily function needs to be involved for it to rise to the level of explicit? So, like, is it as defined as how you go from G to PG to PG-13 and so on?
That's a good question.
Because I don't think there are levels of explicit. It just...
Well, I guess we can get, like, increasingly more gratuitous until they put it on there, and then we know the line.
That's true. Okay.
So, yeah, next episode, hit subscribe, hit like, leave a comment. Your mother raised you better than
she raised us.
To just eat up the entertainment and leave.
I don't know why your mother was involved in raising us, but
if you don't comment on this podcast post, then you're like that person who shows up at a conference, eats all the fucking muffins, and then leaves. Like,
I used to try and convince my cousin that we should go to AA
I used
meetings.
to do that all the time.
I used to try to convince her to go to AA meetings so that we can get some free coffee and donuts. Because actually, it's not just donuts. You might, depending on which one it is, there might be a whole array of
cookies.
Yeah, brownies.
I mean, yeah, it's an affliction that doesn't discriminate based on what you consider catering. It's alcoholism.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. There were people telling their stories too, but you didn't have to stick around for that. And if people don't recognize you, you're just saying, it's like, oh, welcome, oh hi, yeah, it's my first time here. It's my first time. I'm out of town, so I came here for a meeting. So, and then you don't have to actually stick around for it.
Right.
And if it's say in Manhattan, out of town means three.
Well, Manhattan. Three
streets down.
I got the ultimate Manhattan conference moocher story. If you're ready.
I'm ready.
I guess I'm asking.
I'm going to grab my water.
Ron's not sitting down yet.
Yeah.
But now he's sitting down. All right. Okay, so when I lived in New York, I was in college. I would just sort of get up to mischief because that's what I did. I don't know. But I would also go to a lot of free classical music concerts. And I went to go see the Alexandria String Quartet play. I forget the rest of the program, but they played Beethoven's 8th String Quartet, the harp one. And this woman starts talking to me after, this much older woman. And, I'm talking to her because I don't know anybody there and I want to stick around to get the good food because they put out a really nice spread because they really wanted these string quartet people to come back. And she starts telling me that she's actually homeless. There's a Xerox sheet that goes around with a list of every event and the likelihood there's going to be free food there that you can get into. And she basically lived on random food from people giving academic talks or, events, book openings, things like that. And she's telling me about it. She's giving a lot of detail. She's telling me these scams she used to run selling mat pins outside the mat because you can pay what you want at the door, or at least you used to. I don't know if they changed that yet, but so she'd go in, she'd pay 50 cents for the badge, and then she'd sell it for $5-10 to some tourist outside and tell them that the actual price was $20. And she'd tell me all this stuff, and I'm like, there can't actually be a fucking Xerox sheet with just where the free food is. Sure enough, a month later, I'm going through the dollar bin at the Strand bookstore, and I find this hardcover of Richard Feynman, surely you're joking, Mr. Feynman, the first memoir, and there's a copy of it used as the bookmark in this book. It's just a list of, like, types of food they think are going to be there, dates, times, addresses. It's on, like, this beat. And, yeah, it's just weird running into, like,
wow,
that. I mean, I guess it makes sense, kind of like the crew change guide for, like, people that hop trains. Like, you got to know somebody who has it, and they're only going to let you photocopy it, because as soon as the train company knows what's in there, they change the train schedules. Anyway, that's my story, and I should have kept that copy of Surely You're Joking, Mr. Fleming, because I would love to have that sheet to show around. Is just sort of, that's about like as underground as culture gets, I think.
I feel a little bad now with my go to AA for the free food.
Well, no, I mean, because she was like, so I was like, okay, this is really interesting. I got her phone number, and she was like, hey, you want to come hang out at like the gay culture center? And it's like, I felt kind of weird because I'm not gay, but she was like, there's going to be food there. And, you know, I don't think she was gay, but yeah, she just kind of like had developed this community of like Moochie. They, like, everybody in the building knew her. They all kind of knew she was just showing up there for the food. I feel like the reaction to that kind of stuff would have been a lot different in Boston than in New York. Like, New York, is like more kind of, people are a lot looser about, like, people just kind of like living as bums randomly in spaces in a way that they're not. I think it's like the space is more spread out here. Like in New York City, you see how people are living. It's like, oh, well, having an apartment isn't that much different than being homeless. You know? If your apartment's the size of a postage stamp, you're like, you know, I'm not really that different than this person. But they give you a bigger apartment. It's like, oh man, you know, suddenly everybody that comes up to me on the street has rabies. You know, like that's like the vibe I get from a lot of Boston people.
Wait, the other people on the street have rabies, or they all think you have rabies?
Everybody thinks everybody else has rabies.
Right.
Maybe I just read the vibe wrong. Anyway, that was...
So did we just...
I pretended to be an Orthodox Jew for months. You know, no, I pretended I wanted to convert to, like, Chabad Judaism because they kept feeding me this amazing free food. And eventually, they like would invite me over. They're like, hey, come over for the Sabbath. And I'm like, sure, yeah, okay. And they're like, hey, you want free food afterwards? And I'd be like, sure. And damn, it was like, you know, it was like very politically questionable food because, like, I think it was only that good because the women weren't allowed to pray with the men, so they spent the 3 hours cooking. But anyway, it was really, really good food. But after, like, a month of this or so, the guy eventually picks up that I'm just there to eat. I keep leaving the Sabbath to go work on a Friday night. I'm telling them, like, oh, I'm going over to the comedy club. I got to go work on the Sabbath. And then I think he finally figured out that I was just, like, using him for food. And he was not, you know, he's giving me, like, death stares. And like, his wife always thought I was, like, his wife was kind of the brains in the operation.
She knew what was going on.
Yeah, she was super cool, you know.
She was encouraging it.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame, I guess, that she got stuck, like, cooking for some guy who, like, it was weird because he was trying to, like, really play up the Jewish thing. So he was playing, like, I think the first time I ate dinner there, I was like, do you know of many Jewish celebrities? And I was like, sure, yeah. And I was like, do you know who Lou Reed is? And it's like, no, but have you ever seen that movie with Bill Cosby where he lets the kid in the Little League take the day off for the Sabbath? And in retrospect, I realized now what he was trying to tell me with that. But at the same time, like, if the only Jewish American celebrity you can think of is Bill Cosby, and he's not, like, he's not even a celebrity anyway. He's just sort of like he's like a not Jewish pariah at this point. Like, he's America's inappropriate dad.
Yeah, he's a pariah and inappropriate dad. His not being Jewish is on top of that. It's not that he's
completely unrelated.
He's America's top non-Jewish pariah, America's top Jewish pariah. Yeah. Well, I guess there was a Harvey Weinstein.
Like, kids, you can all take the Sabbath off from the Little League game. I got to go talk to your mothers, like.
But I like that. I like that somebody asks you if you can name any Jewish celebrities, and the first one you pull is Lou Reed.
Well, yeah, because I mean, like, who else are you gonna like?
Let's see.
I mean,
at the time, Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh yeah, okay.
Woody Allen.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess Lou Reed was kind of a weird first.
But that was great. I didn't know Lou Reed was Jewish. So
you didn't know Lou Reed was Jewish?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know Tom Waits was Jewish until about 5 seconds from now. No, he's not.
Okay. No, I always thought he was like Irish. But no.
Janis Joplin, originally Joplinovich. Oprah Winfrey Stein.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, Rod Carew is actually Jewish.
Okay.
He's, like, probably more Jewish than I am, because he, like, shows up to the shit. Like, it's kind of like...
And any of us that didn't know who Rod Carew was learned that he was Jewish from the Adam Sandler song.
Right. And I think, like, well, Sammy Davis Jr., everybody knows, like, he's probably the most famous Jewish convert guy.
Yeah.
At least that I can think of.
Since Ruth.
Right. Whenever I hear a story, like, I always feel kind of like, I feel kind of bad about it, because, like at a certain point, kind of like, at what point is this strictly cultural? Like, at what point did I just kind of, like, send some skin in the mail and get a membership card back? Like AAA style, like, but... So on the other hand, this is what I want to do on Sunday, so it's not like...
Wow, did we just go down a Jewish rabbit hole?
We did.
Oh.
And we have been on for an hour.
Wow, okay. Well, is there anything left to say about the Bill Plympton movie?
The Bill Plympton movie, I have said a lot. If you have any parting words here... No.
I really want to talk about the Bill Clinton movie, but that's next time.
Oh, yeah, The War Room? The one with, what's his face, the bald guy, the bald Democrat strategist, James Carville.
Yeah.
The guy with the really... the guy who made Bill Clinton feel less Southern by, like, talking in front of him.
Well, he's from Louisiana, so you need to do more of a... You were sounding a little bit more like Bill Clinton right there.
Oh.
So you need to imagine you're from the bayou.
Well, that's like, I can only meet James Carville halfway.
Okay.
Like, the halfway point between me and James Carville vocally, I think, is Bill Clinton.
Okay, that's
James Carville, like, he has the most intense Southern accent I think I've ever...
Well, yeah, and it's not what... Heard. It's not like you're thinking, when you think of Southern accent, anything, something like Tennessee or Texas or something. It's Cajun.
Right.
No, I don't know if it's actually Cajun, but at least it's Louisiana. Is it Cajun? See, again, I'm keeping. I want to get on line.
Louisiana is Cajun.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. So the accent.
So the Cajun is like New Orleans French.
Yeah. No, I remember the. Do you ever see the Cajun Chef? Is that available on reruns?
It's probably. I mean, everything's available on reruns except for Jerry Lewis, The Day the Clown Cried at this point. And that's going to be Library of Congress. His will says 10 years to the day after I die, Library of Congress, you can walk up, you can go to the desk, and you can be like, I want to see the Jerry Lewis Holocaust movie. And they're going to say, what the fuck are you talking about? And then you're going to have to go look it up on your phone because you're going to need an actual name for the thing, or else... because they got a lot of other shit to do, and like it's important, so don't mess with the Library of Congress people. Anyway, but yes, you can see the Jerry Lewis Holocaust movie in a couple of years.
Wow! Wait,
America needs to make it that long.
Doesn't he need to die first, or is he dead?
He's dead. Yeah, he's been dead for a couple of years now. Yeah.
Oh wow!
He was 93.
I was reading something about some interview that he gave late in life.
That's what I should have said at that dinner. It's like, do you know any Jewish celebrities? Like, hey, lady.
See, I would have gone for Kirk Douglas. Because that's a less, that's not what people think of when they think of a Jewish celebrity. But I guess you went there with Lou Reed, right?
Well, I guess I just kind of think, like, my two kind of role models of how to carry myself as a Jewish person in the world have always been Jerry Lewis and Lou Reed, for better or worse. And not my rabbi.
Do you remember back when we all wanted to be Woody Allen?
Oh, yeah, Woody Allen. I mean,
we all wanted to be... No,
he had some, like, he had some swagger, too. Like, you're like a kid, you don't have a lot of social skills, you're kind of angry, you make a lot of jokes, and you're like, oh, man, this is like... He, like, has all the same kind of annoying tics that I have. But, like, he's hooking up with, like, fucking Diane Keaton, 1975. He's gorgeous, you know? Like, he's, like, flying back and forth to, like his biggest problem in life is Los Angeles, like, existing, right? Like, it's pretty good, you know?
Life's so good, he doesn't even have to know how to drive.
Yeah, right? Like,
well, in the movie, I don't know.
Look at that, it's like,
life.
Yeah, like, I got a good foot on this guy, like... If I pull that out, you know, of course it's movies, you know, it's a believable fantasy, right? Like, like, escape is, like, you're not looking at Captain America and thinking, like, oh man, this is, like, how I would want my life to be if I could get rid of the, you know, if I could cut off the crust from the sandwich that God gave me, you know.
It's a really big sandwich, so that's a lot of crust.
Big, yeah, it can be a lot of crust. You know, some people never make it to the sandwich, I think. But anyway.
It's all crust.
Surprisingly not Jewish. Bruce Springsteen.
Well, I spelled T-E-E-N instead of T-E-I-N. No, did I T-E-I-N? T-I-E-N.
Springsteen.
Yeah, Springsteen. Oh, wait, I was going to tell you something about the... all of us wanting to be Woody Allen. I had I can't remember how it was, but it was some years ago, and it was a friend of a friend, and we were talking about somehow it came up about feeling anxious, and said about me feeling anxious, and he said, "Oh, are you Jewish?" I said, "Yeah." So they go, "That's why." Like, what are you talking about? It's like, well, you know, look for example at Woody Allen. Like, that is what we see Woody Allen on the screen.
Woody Allen was like Judaism to most of the U.S. population, I think, for a long time. Like that, at least the way I would encounter it, like it was kind of like, oh, there's like somebody on the Supreme Court I can't name. Oh, and Woody Allen.
But yeah, then I went off on him and explaining that Woody Allen's character is a character that's not Woody Allen in real life.
I kind of wonder to an extent. Well, I kind of wonder with movies, like, I almost feel like people don't actually have the ability to mask themselves in movies. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of, like, the Woody Allen in the movie is not the Woody Allen that Woody Allen thinks he is. The Woody Allen in the movies definitely reveals a lot of, like...
But he's the Woody Allen, the director, actor, writer is much more competent than Woody Allen the character.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And is probably he might have some.
He plays sport. I mean, he was like a jock in high school. He didn't get good grades. He never went to college. Like, when you know that he didn't go to college, a lot of the stuff in the movies about, like, he's incredibly distrustful of anything that looks formally academic, right? Like, there's the guys in the dinner party in Manhattan where they're like, oh, there was a great thing in the New Yorker about Nazis. And he's like, there's that great line where it's like, the only thing that I think stopped Nazis are bricks. Or something like that. And the guy's like, no, we need more witty op-eds. And there's definitely other, like crimes and misdemeanors, the whole emphasis on magic versus, like, set intellectual guidelines of engaging with reality that the one TV producer guy that Alan Alda plays says, like there's that whole sequence where he's talking about, if it bends, it's funny. If it breaks, it's not funny. If it... he's, like, laying out these kind of trite screenwriting class style rules for how comedy works.
Is this sort of like names that begin with the letter K are funny?
Right. Yeah. Like, hard consonants are always funny.
Hey.
So we have a third podcaster now.
Yeah.
Oh.
The inimitable Liz just showed up.
Yeah.
Are you recording right now?
We are.
Well, this is the cliffhanger where everybody's like, who is this person? I need to hear the rest of the saga.
Yeah. I guess we were kind of wrapping up.